Good morning, everyone. A warm and cheerful welcome to each of you at this meaningful gathering. The workshop Learning History, Writing Futures was conceptualized through a collaborative initiative between Indian Association for Women's Studies, Southern Region Committee, and Center for Women's Studies, Pondicherry University. The idea took shape 6 months ago under the dynamic leadership of Dr. Meena Gopal, whose vision, guidance inspired faculty, scholars, and students to work collectively. The workshop materialized through the continuous discussion, planning sessions, and academic exchanges, aiming to create a reflective space for writing, dialogue, and feminist inquiry. This collaboration embodies the shared commitment of IAWS and the Center to advance the gender-sensitive knowledge and inclusive scholarship. On behalf of Center for Women's Studies, Pondicherry University, I, Dr. Kamalavini, Associate Professor, feel truly delighted to be your Master of Ceremony this morning. As Kamala Basin reminds us, feminism is not a war between men and women, it's a movement for justice, equality, and human dignity. In that spirit, today's workshop begins with the presence of a remarkable scholar and visionary leader who has been at the forefront of advancing gender equity, promoting interdisciplinary research, empowering both students and faculty through her guidance, mentorship, and dedication. Her work has continuously fostered inclusive academic spaces, encouraged critical thinking, and inspired meaningful engagement with the issue of social justice and women empowerment. It is therefore my great pleasure to invite Dr. Meena Gopal, Associate Professor at Center for Women's Studies, Pondicherry University, to deliver the welcome address and outline the objectives of today's workshop. Welcome you.
I would like to begin by thanking the Vice Chancellor, Professor P. Prakash Babu, under whose leadership we've been fortunate to organize a program at the Center for Women's Studies, bringing members of the Executive Committee of the Indian Association of Women's Studies and the members of the Southern Regional Committee. So I'm truly delighted that Pondicherry University has had the good fortune to host the Indian Association of Women's Studies Southern Chapter under the leadership of the Vice Chancellor and the cooperation of all the members of the committee. I'm delighted that we are also having the support of the teaching fraternity and sorority across the university, as well as the goodwill of the administrative personnel in our venture. Today, unfortunately this week, or rather fortunately, it is the examination week, so students are also, torn between commitment to their studies and being here. But nevertheless, we've had the support of all the faculty, and so I'm delighted about that. While our sisters and brothers in adjoining Tamil Nadu, in Chennai or Trichy, has had the privilege of being part of workshops, conferences, and other activities of the association, I believe it's a first here for our center. And I thank, of course, the Vice Chancellor's leadership, but I also thank Dr. Ashita, the HOD, my colleagues, Dr. Kamalaveni, Dr. Mercy Gangte, my office staff, Gauri Bai and Rajalakshmi, for enabling this. This is indeed a collaboration with much potential. The benefit from this, most of all, accrue to students, and you can see that there's quite a committed group out here, some of whom have been part of the some of whom we have as part of the reflection and writing workshop that will take place over the next 2 days. The workshop itself emerged due to the questions and needs raised by students of the need for additional support and nurture for feminist reflection, conversation, and dialogue in our courses as well as across the university and spaces that young people travel through. There is much demand for pause, reflection, and a look back at histories in order to chart futures. And so, it is in that meaning that we have titled it Learning History, Writing Futures. In framing the workshop, therefore, we've had the privilege of scholars, activists, people who inhabit the spaces within and beyond the university. So from Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Vijayapura, Kottayam, Kozhikode, Chennai, and Pondicherry, in pooling ideas and shaping this workshop in a manner quite different from regular academic workshops. The endeavor is to write women's lives through which we speak from the margins, but also offer a standpoint to those who are powerful of partial perspective. It is also to make unstable constancies, and open up creative ways to engage with ideas and writing. So that is the imagination that's guiding the workshop. We are also attempting to cross the language obstacles by trying our best bringing together conversation in diverse linguistic capabilities. We are still unsure of how it will pan out, but not closing doors to these expressions. Over the 2 days, short presentations, working in groups with facilitation by those more experienced, as well as the freedom to engage in dialogue, interrogation, revision of ideas across generations will be the mode of engagement. So I invite you all to participate, and those who may not have been part of it will have further opportunities. The workshop also does not aim to be a one-off episode, but provide follow-up through more iterations via more convenient ways, such as the online or short training mode. The objective is to create a peer solidarity for the young people to be connected to each other, but also have the academic and activist networks to fall back on. In preparing for these workshops, the 10 to 15 members of the Southern Regional Committee, who you just met, sir, have achieved precisely that. We have formed friendships and affective solidarities among one another, offered a commitment that excites us to keep going ahead. We're also expanding our reach by having newer conversations and becoming familiar with other expressions of gender, using digital tools to assist us, trying to overcome our inhibitions around that. We are hoping the core presentations that will follow this session, offered over the 2 days, will also generate pedagogical material. How does a text animate our ideas, inspire us, unlock some creative impulse? And how can we express this? In building this resource for reflection and subsequent writing, I thank our Electronic Media Resource Center colleagues, Professor Hanif and his team who are here, Mr. Pala and Mr. Sivkumar, who generously offered to document those sessions. I yet again thank the university, the leadership of our Vice Chancellor, and the generous colleagues for offering these collaborative opportunities. Thanks again for being part of this. Look forward to the workshop, and I welcome you all to this inauguration.
Thank you, Dr. Meena. At this moment, we take a special opportunity to honor Dr. Kalpana Karunakaran, President of Indian Association for Women's Studies, whose tireless efforts have advanced feminist scholarships, promoted gender-sensitive research, and created space for creating dialogue across India. Her vision and leadership continue to inspire scholars and students alike. To acknowledge her invaluable contribution, may I now invite Professor P. Prakash Babu Sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Pondicherry University, to kindly present a token of honor to Dr. Kalpana Karunakaran. Professor Prakash Babu Sir, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Pondicherry University, a distinguished neuroscientist with PhD from the University of Hyderabad, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor, has made a remarkable contributions to research on neurodegenerative diseases and brings over 3 decades of academic and institutional experience. Since assuming the role of Vice Chancellor in March 2025, he has strengthened the university's research, teaching, and global engagement, fostering the culture of innovation, excellence, and inclusion. With great respect, may I now invite Professor Prakash Babu Sir to deliver the presidential address.
Very good morning, all of you. Guests on the dais, Dr. Kalpana Karunakaran, President of the Indian Association of the Women's Studies, Southern Chapter, Southern Region, Dr. Meena Gopal, Convener and Organizing Secretary, Professor Rashita, and other colleagues sitting on the dais on this today's important occasion, and also the visitors that they have come from all the way from different states, and the participants, students, other invited guests, and the media people. It's my pleasure to be here on this occasion of the organizing this wonderful workshop. The title itself is really attracting: Learning History, Writing Futures. So it's true that without knowing the history, I don't think we can plan for a future, because we should know the roots of it, then we should think of the shoots, then only can think of the fruits of it. It's a women's studies is not a just studies reflected to the studies, but it's a kind of movement. It's a movement in India. It's a reform movement apart from the freedom struggle. It's a post-freedom struggle for the women. We have to remember the stalwarts in the country, in the Indian scenario, because in India we have a different kinds of the traditions, cultures. With these, we are completely different from the rest of the world. Therefore, the gender inequality has been in the country since ages. Let us acknowledge and realize it. We don't have to hesitate to say such a kind of things. The foundations were laid in 19th century social reform movement by the great people like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Savitribai Phule, Jyotirao Phule, Pandit Ramabai, and also women reformers and the writers. Let us acknowledge also on this occasion: Tarabai Shinde, Begum Rukia, Shekhawat Hussain. And after this, there is another landmark has happened in the Indian freedom movement, joined by the women in the freedom struggle. So let us also remember some of the names of the Sarojini Naidu, Kasturiba Gandhi, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyaya, and Aruna Asaf Ali. These are the people not only led, they are also be part of the system where the people are not actually allowed to go out. They have come out and they have participated as part of the freedom movement and freedom struggle. Then the next year I started after the freedom, 1947. Then the Constitution has come into the picture, where we have enshrined the equality, non-discrimination, and the social justice. Though they were enshrined in the Constitution, but it continued. It continued at various levels. And in the system of the country where we have the caste system, apart from the religion disparities and caste disparities are there, women are being treated differently in different communities. Let us acknowledge this also. And at this juncture, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, in 1950, he introduced a Hindu Code Bill for which everybody opposed it. Everybody opposed because they don't want to recognize a woman as equal to the men in the country. We should appreciate his enthusiasm and also commitment towards this particular bill. He resigned from the position. He doesn't want the position also because the position in the minister now, anybody can resign, any minister can resign, no. So he resigned, he sacrificed. And also he is also one who actually fought for the workers in the factories where there is a disparities are going on in the wages. He is the one first to raise the issue. And later, the committee has been constituted in 1960s and 70s, the Committee on the Status of the Women in India in 1974 to 75. This is the landmark report, I think most of you must have been aware of it, towards equality. The title is the Towards Equality and became a turning point. The report revealed deep gender inequalities in education, employment, and political representation, and called for both research and the policy reforms. So it emphasized the research and the policy reforms. So the whole essence of the today's workshop is being organized on these clear guidelines, and I wish the students of this department should really work on it, leading directly to the institutionalization of the women's studies in India. So this is the thing that it has come out of the during those periods. It's the institutionalization of the women's studies. So then, because of this, the University Grants Commission, they started the Center for Women's Studies across the country in different universities. And this is only to bridge between the academia and the activism. Both are not separate. Activism is being done outside the academia, but the academia is doing it within the four walls. Unless these two things come closer to each other, it will not go out. So as a scientist, I'm a researcher. People say that I'm doing great research. I work with the brain diseases. I'm doing it within four walls. Within the four walls, I'm doing it. Unless this goes to the outside the society, or unless it goes transformed into the clinical search, when it's useful for the human nature or human diseases, my research is not really useful. Therefore, the academia always should bridge the social status and outside the world, how it is going on, what it is going on. So therefore, the whole purpose of the Women's Studies Centers was created to make it's a dynamic process. You have to really active towards what is happening in the society. And also, based on this, the curriculum reforms have been happened, and also policy advocacy, and also the community outreach. So this is especially for the students, those who are studying in this department. Don't confine to the four walls or don't confine to the subject alone. You have to go out and visit. As a part of the project, I wish that the department must be doing it. You people should visit the villages where actually completely it's different. So whatever you think that it is happening, we are all equal in the university, we are doing equally, you are doing equally, but don't think that this is happening in the villages or the outside the universities. So I wish you should go and see and experience what challenges that the women are facing in those places, and be part of that work or the research or a dissertation work for this. So this is the intersectional analysis. So this intersectional analysis is very important when you are doing the workshop in this learning with this workshop. So today's women's studies in India faces the challenges of the sustainability, recognition, and also the relevance. So when you are doing something, people are always there to criticize you. Criticism is there from the beginning, from several years ago. But you should not worry about the criticism. Whatever you think that you are convinced that you are going to contribute to the society and the system, I wish you should go ahead and contribute to the system. And also within the changing academic structures. Academic structures keep on changing. This is also the dynamic process. And I wish you should also keep changing the syllabus of the department to meet the needs of the social structure in the society. The field continues to push the boundaries of the knowledge, from learning history to writing features, reflecting the ongoing dialogue between the scholarship and the social justice. These are all the basis for the workshop that I hope you people are going to learn. Women's studies in India is not merely on the academic discipline, it's a living movement. It stands as a testimony to decades of the feminist struggle, intellectual courage, and enduring the commitment to the equality, reminding us the study of women's lives untimely, and the study of the humanity itself. Study of the woman studies is study of the humanity itself. As we know that when woman in the family is educated, whole family is educated. Whole family generations will go ahead, not unlike the men. So therefore, I wish the students should learn and practice, and also the visitors. And I congratulate the department for taking up such a kind of workshop on this particular thing. And I thank the society president and also the executive committee members, those who are here, for considering the Pondicherry University as the place and the venue for organizing such a kind of workshop. Those who are new to this place, please keep visiting the university, complete different departments and places. It's a vibrant and green campus. And also Puducherry itself is a beautiful place. So many people would like to come and settle here after retirement. So such a kind of beautiful place you are visiting. Please go ahead and visit this place. And I wish the workshop should go successfully. And I thank the organizers for making this effort. Yes. So thank you very much, and I wish you best of luck.
Sir, usually when leaderships are from science background, it really threatens, social science, in particular women's studies faculty or, feminist scholars. But in our case, we are really privileged to have a leader like you who is really empathizing the feminist perspective and who is able to visualize that. Thank you so much, sir, for that. And we are really, feeling proud to have a leader like this who can really understand. So for this, particular workshop, when Meena called for the application, we received more than 280 applications, sir. She restricted it to 30 just to make it a more qualitative research. Otherwise, we would have got, the whole 280 applications done. Anyway, thank you, sir. Thank you for that. As Bell Hooks once said, feminism is for everybody. In that spirit, today's session is graced by an eminent scholar and transformative leader whose work has profoundly shaped feminist thought and action in India. Dr. Kalpana Karunakaran, a professor in Department of Humanities and Social Science at IIT Madras, has made a significant contributions to understanding gender, poverty, microcredit, women's labor, and collective action. Her acclaimed works includes Women, Microfinance, and the State in Neoliberal India, Comrade Amma, A Daughter's Portrait of Maithili Sivaraman, and A Woman of No Consequence Memory, Letters and Resistance in Madras, reflect her deep engagement with women's lived experiences and struggles. Her scholarship, leadership, and commitment to justice exemplify the very essence of women's studies. It is my great honor to invite Dr. Kalpana Karunakaran, President of IAWS, to deliver the inaugural address. Welcome you, ma'am.
Respected Professor P. Prakash Babu, Vice Chancellor of Pondicherry University, Director Professor Ashita, and faculty members of the Center for Women's Studies, Pondicherry University, my dear fellow member of the EC, Dr. Meena Gopal, faculty and students from different departments of Pondicherry University, members of the Southern Regional Committee of the Indian Association for Women's Studies, who have jointly planned and made this workshop possible today, and workshop participants, enthusiastic, selected, handpicked 31 of the 280 participants. I am extremely happy to extend my warm greetings to you on the occasion of the inaugural of the writing workshop of Pondicherry University, jointly hosted with the IAWS. While other members of the EC could not be here with me today, we are currently about a 12 to 13 member EC. I have no doubt at all that they join me on this joyful occasion in extending their warmest greetings to you and their thanks to Pondicherry University and its Vice Chancellor for hosting this workshop. So I want to also, I want to say, Professor Prakash Babu very kindly invited all of us to spend more time in Pondicherry, in Puducherry. I must say that as a Chennai resident, I have visited Puducherry too many times to count, but this is my first visit to the Pondicherry University. And I really look forward to getting to understand your university's activities and departments, and to also having a longer term relationship with Pondicherry University. So thank you for the invitation, sir. I will certainly take it up. As president of IAWS, I see this as a good occasion to briefly reiterate the goals and objectives of the IAWS itself as an association. As many of you know, this is a professional association that includes not only researchers, not only faculty members, not only scholars and teachers, but also people from all occupations, writers, journalists, theatre persons, activists and organizers on the ground of various movements for social change in the country are and continue to be very active members of IAWS. It's an association that includes and warmly invites women, men, people of all genders to join this association. So that's by way of a brief introduction. My job has been made easier today by the Vice Chancellor's very interesting and brief summary of the history of the women's movement and women's studies in India. So I'll just add a little more to that by saying that yes, indeed, the Towards Equality report, that was the report on the Committee of the Status of Women in India that was published in 1974, was in a sense a founding moment, if we want to call it that, for the field of women's studies in India. For that was the first report, and it of course had doyens like Dr. Veena Mazumdar, Lotika Sarkar, among others. Veena Mazumdar herself was the chair of the committee, and others whose visions guided this committee. And this committee was the very first to have collected, accumulated massive data and evidence from the ground, from the field, which showed that in post-independence India, and that was about 20 to 25 years after independence, there were alarming gender gaps between men and women on various fronts, whether it was access to education, employment, healthcare, access to healthcare, political participation and representation in public life in the country, educational attainments across various levels. So this startling data, shocking even for its time, was made available in a rigorous manner through the activities of the Towards Equality report. And that was a moment, as many of you know already, I'm sure, when women's movements were also on the rise in India. And the Towards Equality report played a very important role in contributing to this idea that the constitutional promise of equality had betrayed Indian women, right? That Indian women had been left behind. So therefore then, there was obviously then with the publication of the report, there was pressure on government, on policy makers, on legislators to see what policy initiatives could do to address, to change the situation. But on the other hand, there was equally a felt need to have a field of inquiry or an academic discipline even, and we called it women's studies from that period. And this discipline or this field of inquiry must be devoted to understanding, to documenting, to capturing changes in women's status and condition in India, given that its constitutional promise of equality had betrayed Indian women. And of course, as the decades passed, women's studies also then expanded its ambit to understand what was happening by way of unfolding gender relations in India. How do we understand changes in gender relations across India, in different regions of India, etc. But briefly then, I want to once again emphasize that the moment of the birth of women's studies was also the moment of the re-emergence of women's movements in India. So both in a sense were intertwined. Both emerged out of the social and political churning of the 1970s in India. And I think it is this context that inspired Dr. Veena Mazumdar to say something that she would reiterate very often in her speeches and her writings, which is that women's studies in India has to be the intellectual arm of women's movements in India. So what she emphasized really was that women's studies must feed into, contribute towards the understandings of women's movements, and at the same time, it must imbibe its lessons, its insights and its learnings from rich movements on the ground broadly for social justice and for gender justice. So this understanding, I would like to think, still embodies the spirit of IAWS. It still anchors the IAWS to this day, and we are extremely mindful of the need to constantly reinvent this linkage. What does it mean in today's context? What does it mean to many of you young people in the audience, for instance, when I say women's studies and women's movements must learn from each other and must grow together, right? So that's not an understanding that we must keep in a museum and fossilize, but that's an understanding that we have to reinvent, we have to relearn it, and perhaps we have to keep reinterpreting its meaning as well over the decades. I just want to also therefore also very quickly ask you all, if you have not really done it already, to take a quick look at online at the report that is available still of the 1974 Towards Equality report, and you'll have a sense of the very rich data that was collected, the massive effort that went into generating that evidence, and at the same time the diverse fields and sectors that were included. It wasn't just the economy, it wasn't just politics, it wasn't only society or culture. So that is in itself methodologically a rich document. The second thing I think I also want to say today, because of its very obvious resonances with the present moment, is one of the earliest understandings of the Towards Equality report and of the women's studies field in India from the 1970s has been that while there may be progress, while there may have been by the mid-1970s certainly some evidence of progress in terms of education and employment, for a small minority of India's women, this was certainly not the case with the vast majority of women. So in other words, this idea that women are not, the notion of women or woman or womanhood or however we want to call it, is not monolithic, was something that notion was imbibed and was very much a part of the earliest learnings of the Towards Equality report. So therefore, when the ICSSR, the Indian Council for Social Sciences Research, launched a women's studies program, one of the earliest of its kinds in the early 1970s, the ICSSR then also created by this mood and atmosphere said that the purpose of the women's studies program must be not to look only or exclusively at elite women from elite sections of society, but to look at women who had until then remained invisible to policy makers. So essentially, the vast masses of laboring poor women, whether they were of working poor women, whether they were rural women or urban women, to try and understand the women's question, as it was called, by looking at the experiences of laboring poor women. And I think I want to also therefore say that this has been one of the enduring maybe understandings of the women's movement, that we are always disaggregating, we are always breaking down the women's question by social class, by caste, by region, by communities, by occupational groups. And while we want to show and we are trying to show that all classes of women, social classes of women may experience oppression, we equally are interested in showing how these forms of oppression vary, right? And I think that showing this together has remained one of the challenges also of women's studies in India. In other words, perhaps to use a language that many of you women's studies students here in the audience may be familiar with, how does the lens, the analytical lens of gender work along with the lens of caste, along with the lens of class, along with the lens of region, when we try and understand the complex social reality of India, right? So we use the word intersectional analysis in a more recent context, but I just want to briefly say that this effort has had a much older history. And of course, we've never been perfect at it. We're trying to get better and better. And women's studies practitioners, researchers, and activists are still learning and honing their skill in terms of how to use these lenses together to get a richer sense of reality. And the third point I really also want to emphasize today is region is something that we don't want to lose out at all. IAWS is very conscious of integrating experiences, insights from different regions of India. So since this EC, of which Dr. Meena Gopal and I are a part, took over, which was in 2024, we have held one Mid-Eastern Regional Conference for the states of Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and Bihar. One of the focus areas of discussion, deliberations during the conference was Adivasi movements from the region, from pre-independence times right up to contemporary times, and how they have dealt with the question of displacement, of dispossession, of marginalization, and of state movements for devolution of more power and authority to the region, because that was the richness of regional experiences of mid-eastern India. Only about 2 weeks ago, this was last November 2024, only about 2 weeks ago, we had an Eastern Regional workshop that was held in Behrampur University, and in Odisha, West Bengal, and again delegates from Jharkhand as well attended this workshop. The focus was on understanding violence, because Eastern India has also seen very recently also citizen-led protests against violence directed at women's bodies, and therefore gender and politics was the focus of the workshop, but always keeping in mind that we can't talk about gender and politics without also talking about cultures of violence and simultaneously the cultures of silence that feed impunity. So that was a learning from the Eastern region for us. Earlier this year, we had a workshop just a few months after protests over the RG car rape incident of Kolkata had rocked the state of West Bengal. And this workshop brought together, IAWS's workshop in Kolkata brought together young writers, artists, film producers who sat across a table and talked about what does it mean to be young people in all these industries today, and how violence is not just an extraordinary act of, say, one-time violation, but maybe embedded within everyday norms and practices in the film industry, in journalism, sometimes maybe even in academia, right? So we are therefore all this to say that IAWS is deeply interested in understanding what the issues from the region are. So we do really, in that spirit, I want to say, we do really look forward to also having a Southern Regional Conference at some point of time from the Southern region. And at the same time, I want to say as President, I fully recognize how important and how unique this workshop is today, right? Perhaps it is one of a kind for the IAWS. I don't think we often our events are conferences, symposiums and so on, but a writing workshop perhaps is one of a kind, and I must attribute it entirely to the visionary presence of Dr. Meena Gopal on our EC. And of course, she has been supported very warmly by her team of colleagues within Pondicherry University. But we recognize in the IAWS that there is a tremendous hunger for knowledge, for democratizing access to knowledge production. So it was not surprising for us that about 280 applicants applied for a writing workshop in the first place, right? Wanting to know how can we read better, how can we write better. From the institution I come from, IIT Madras, just about 2 months ago, we had a workshop for research scholars on academic thinking and academic reading and writing. And we found that all the scholars wanted to get into the program, although we had limited seats. So I just want to say, therefore, that we recognize what an important contribution this is. And I finally want to end by saying that I hope all of you know that IAWS is an association that is committed to the principles of democracy, which means, what does that mean? That we are elected and re-elected for a 3-year period. The tenure of this EC is 3 years. I am not the president for life. And that means that we would invite all of you, many of you young people, to please become members of the organization first. There's student membership, there's life membership, institutional, different categories of membership. You can just go to our website and you can look at what works for you, and to play a role in this organization as active members. And you don't even have to be in academia to be a member, as I already explained to you. You may then become, after this, you may become anybody at all, an artist, a writer, but we would still like to have you as an IAWS member, and who knows, in the future compete to become an EC member, we hold elections. It's not a nomination process. It's an election process. So, and to therefore have your vision of leadership and the ways in which you want to steer this organization and how you think it can grow, right? So we are very, very eager to have you all therefore become our members and to contribute to a vibrant presence for this organization. The last thing is that we are committed, we are very happy that the Center for Women's Studies of Pondicherry University is spearheading this initiative today. We are committed to supporting women's studies, cells, centers, departments, programs in any form in different institutions. We remain interested in institutionalizing women's studies. At the same time, we don't want it to remain a fossil and a museum piece like I'd explained earlier. So we hope that when you begin to pick up and read from women's studies, all of you from gender studies in India, you will be able to find answers to the questions that may bother you as young people today. What is the agency and the autonomy that young people have? Has India's promise of constitutional equality completely transformed the lives of women and young people of all genders in India today? Right? That's a live question. It's not a question that remains in textbooks. It's a question that should be out there in the field every day because it's a question of the promises of the Constitution towards us. And women's studies is one entry point to think about this, right? And we hope therefore that you grab this entry point and you expand the space in the years to come and you make it your own. Finally, my deepest thanks once again to the Vice Chancellor. Thank you, sir. And to the Center for Women's Studies for hosting this novel, exciting new writing workshop. I look forward to learning along with the rest of you on how to write better and think better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for that insightful and thought-provoking address that truly sets a tone for today's workshop. To bring the inaugural session to the close, it's my privilege to invite Dr. Ashita, Associate Professor and Head, Center for Women's Studies, Pondicherry University, who has been instrumental in coordinating today's workshop. With her dedication to advancing gender scholarship and fostering inclusive academic spaces, Dr. Ashita will now deliver a vote of thanks, expressing our gratitude to all the dignitaries, participants, and organizers. Welcome, Ashita.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks for this inaugural session today. And this workshop, which is actually a feminist writing workshop, we are very happy to, have it materialized with the efforts of a great number of people, I would say. And therefore, on behalf of the Center for Women's Studies and on behalf of the Indian Association for Women's Studies, New Delhi, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to all those who are going to make this workshop a big success. First and foremost, my heartfelt thanks go to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor P. Prakash Babu, for his insightful address that has not only set a powerful tone for the workshop, but also inspired us all to explore the crucial intersections of feminism and literature. Sir, your words resonated deeply, and we are truly honored by your presence. And the way you beautifully and chronologically summed up the evolution of women's studies in the Indian context, that actually set the tone for this workshop. Thank you, sir. I would also like to extend our sincere appreciation to Dr. Kalpana Karunakaran, President of the Indian Association for Women's Studies, for collaborating with our center and also for your unwavering support of initiatives like this that promote the diverse voices and critical dialogue. And I personally would like to thank you for reiterating the fact that apart from everything else, women's studies as an academic discipline need to be institutionalized, whether it's in a college, in a center, in a university or any other academic setting. Thank you so much, Dr. Kalpana, for being with us today. We also extend our heartfelt thanks to the directors and the registrar of Pondicherry University. Heartfelt thanks also go to Professor G. Chandrika, who could not be present with us right now, but she will be with us today, tomorrow for the valedictory session. So she is the Dean, School of the Social Sciences and International Studies, and she has been continuously guiding and encouraging all of us at the center for any of the academic initiatives which we, put forward before her for her approval and all. I would also like to thank Dr. Meena Gopal, the organizer of the writing workshop, for envisioning this important initiative and for so thoughtfully and smoothly bringing it to fruition. Thank you, Dr. Meena. We are immensely grateful to all the participants and attendees who have joined us today, because it is because of your enthusiasm and commitment that we are all gathered here today, and your commitment to engaging with feminist writing is what makes workshops like this necessary and impactful. We also look forward to your active participation in the coming sessions today and tomorrow. I must also acknowledge the tireless effort of the entire organizing committee, comprising of the students, scholars, staff of the Center for Women's Studies, and all the volunteers who have come forward. This event would not have been possible without your dedication, your hard work, your running around, and your meticulous planning. So, a very big thanks to all of you. And my thanks to the management of this convention center for providing us with the excellent facilities and support required to host this event. We also extend our sincere appreciation to the electronic media team for their support in covering the program and ensuring its wider reach. Thank you all once again for your valuable time and presence. We wish everyone a productive and enriching workshop ahead. But before I end, I would like to reiterate and I would like to say that let us all be reminded today that our words are powerful tools for change. May we continue to wield them with courage and conviction. Thank you.